What's up, everyone? You are listening to Sisters Breaking Cycles, the podcast.
Grab your favorite drink of choice and join us as we have some hard conversations that no one else wants to have.
My name is Joanna, aka JoJo, and I am your host.
And I am Jasmine, your co host.
And welcome to episode 6. Today, we're going to be discussing a very important topic, which is exchanges of equal value. So get ready, get comfortable, and listen in. I think we should just start off with like our highlights or like what we're grateful for. Me personally, I got an opportunity to go celebrate our grandma because she turned 85 years old this year, and it was just nice. I always guilt myself because I feel like I'm so close to her. I'm like an hour and a few minutes away, and I don't make enough time to go visit her. But when I do visit her, it's so wonderful. It's just really nice to just kind of like be in her presence and just see her. So
Hmm.
that was like my highlight, being able to spend time with grandma and celebrate her birthday.
Yeah, that's so lovely. And I'm glad you got to be there since we're so far away. It's kind of hard for us, to make it down there more times. So I'm glad you got to see her in person and share that with her. For me, my highlight was just seeing my son break into a whole new level of courage and bravery around going to the pool. He has started to do like these little jumps into the pool. And before he used to be like so scared, and now he just finds so much joy in it. He always wants to be in the pool. He always wants to be doing the jumps in the pool, and all this was just so beautiful to see this evolution that he has gone through. Having that fear, and now it's excitement and joyful for him.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, me
And
too.
the thing about your son too, like he loves the water. Like he loves
Mm.
being in water. Like he loves adventure. So that's so awesome that he's really getting the courage to start propelling into like being able to swim, being able to do all these outdoor activities that he craves, like he wants to do.
Mm.
Girl, you have a boy, so you know boys have a lot of energy to burn.
Yes, yes. From the
Oh,
time he wakes up until the time he lays his head on the pillow, it's like 100.
yes, yes, yes. So I'm happy. I'm happy that he got the courage to do that. I'm happy for you, and you really guiding him through that whole stage of like learning how to swim and feeling confident. Like that's cool. That's a cool story. I like
Mm. Yes, thank you, sister. Yeah. And so, like, with that, our episode today talking about exchanges of equal value. Um, I think in that story itself, I can see an exchange that happened between my son and I. This exchange of energy, of joyous and exciting energy that is coming from him, learning this new thing, opening up his world to this newness, and then me being there as like this calm presence and encouragement, as well as he opens up to this newness. It's beautiful to see. And I feel like we have these exchanges with other people all the time in every aspect of our life. The most common thing I can think about is a like wife husband relationship, right? Is like for us, I know culturally, based on what we have seen and what we know, is usually the husband is out of the house and does some kind of hard labor or is working all day, and then usually the wife stays at home and is like the homemaker and takes care of the household. And so that's kind of like a traditional view, but looking at it from an outside perspective, it's like, is that really an equal value, an exchange of equal value between the husband and wife in a relationship like that, you know?
Absolutely not. It's not equal. No. It's definitely harder to be a stay-at-home person and balance all everything that needs to be done to balance a home versus just going out and working. But I mean, I don't think it's been like that for many years. In the recent, I want to say the last probably 60 years, 50 years, women have been working. Our mom was working when we were children,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
she wasn't able to stay home with us and be a mom to us. Like we were living with babysitters most of our childhood years. But prior to my mom, I could see grandma or other generations prior to that, they did have that where the woman stayed at home and the man went to work. Is it an exchange of equal value? No, it's not.
Mm-mm.
I don't
No.
agree.
Yeah, I don't either. I feel like the value that it takes for someone to hold down a household is way greater than the value of someone bringing in just an income. Because yeah, even though like say the husband's working hard and maybe long hours, maybe the labor itself is straining, you're giving all that just for money, and that's all you're gonna bring into this exchange in this relationship, right? And so it really doesn't seem very equal to
No,
me. And so that also brings me to ask the question of like, where else are we doing this, especially as women, as first generation Latinas? Where else are we devaluing ourselves when we walk into maybe certain rooms that we might not feel we have anything to bring at all?
mhm.
In a career, when we go, let's say, get a job interview, start working, it's like, what's the one thing we're always taught? What's the one thing we go for? It's like, give it your all. Give it your all. Like, if you're not putting in 120%, then what are you doing? Like, what are you bringing to the table? And I feel like that's a false narrative
It
that
is.
we have been sold. Like, we bring value to that table as soon as we're hired. If not, they wouldn't have hired us.
That's a great point. I think the thing about it is we're overachievers. We're always taught as Latinos and probably in other cultures as well, you give it your all. You go the extra mile. You have
Hmm.
to outshine the other people around you. And I remember something that I heard when I was younger, when I first started working. They were like, "Oh, be grateful you have a job.
Right?
Do whatever
Yeah.
they ask of you, and be grateful that you have a job." And it's like, what? Like now, 2 degrees later, and I'm like, no, it's not about just, we're not machines. We don't
Hmm.
operate like machines. We can't just keep giving out, giving out, giving out. We're only making the corporations richer and richer, and we're burning out faster and faster.
Yeah.
So it is getting to the point where you have to start really understanding what you bring to that table. And what you just said right now, they wouldn't have hired us if they didn't see that potential. If they didn't see that value that we were going to add to their company,
Hmm.
they wouldn't have hired us. So we shouldn't feel the need to burn ourselves out working for them to feel like we're bringing value to that environment.
Exactly. Or even to feel like the salary that they're paying us is worth it. Like,
Mhm.
no, you have the capacity. You're there because you already have that capacity to earn that amount, whether you do more or you don't.
Yeah, I think
And
a lot of money is left on the table because at my previous job, I used to be a part of interviews and I kind of knew the budget around it. And when we would hire, we had like a set amount of like, okay, it's between this range and this range. And
mhm,
depending on how the interviews went, we're like, okay, we could get away with like lowballing them, or okay,
mhm,
this person has too much experience. We need to get them the highest possible and hope that they're going to take it, right?
mhm,
So there is this little like bank that they're given, any employer,
Mhm.
to give to people. But if we're so
Yes.
eager to just have that mentality of like, oh, we're just grateful we're getting the opportunity, we're gonna probably end up settling for the cheapest rate that they're willing to pay out, simply because we don't know our value, we don't understand our value, and we're
Mhm.
not comfortable asking for more
Mhm.
because there's always
Yes.
a little bit of cushion, right? So
Mhm.
getting more comfortable with understanding just how much value we bring is going to set us that much further in being able to ask for what we deserve, because I don't feel like we do that. Especially
Yeah.
women, we don't do that. Um,
Mhm.
so we really need to shift that and change that around. And guess what? What's the worst that can happen if you ask for more money? They say no. Okay, at least you tried. At least you
Yes.
tried. You have the job. The job is secure. It's yours. You don't lose the job just by asking.
Exactly.
You'll just get the lower salary, and that's okay,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. 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 And I feel like um this might be, in my opinion, maybe it might just be me or I don't know, but it might be something that's rooted deep within us because I could see it in all aspects and all areas of my life.
Mhm.
Like before, I used to feel like I always had to go, 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 always be doing just for myself, right? Even when things that I did were for me, like say working out or putting a lot more effort into eating healthy or putting a lot more effort into self love and things like that. Even with those things, I felt like I always had to fill up my schedule to the brim and always be going, always be learning, always be doing. But, I couldn't just do nothing and like just sit on the couch and do nothing. Like that was not an option because I felt guilty. It's like, well, what am I doing sitting on the couch? I'm not doing nothing. But it's like it's important for us to understand, and I feel like I know this now. Before I didn't, that the value that I have intrinsically within myself for myself is always the same, whether I am going and doing until I burn out, or whether I am just resting and sitting on the couch and just letting things be.
Yes. Oh my God, someone had to say that. Yes, yes, yes. That statement right there. I think you hit my core right there. I was like,
You felt
kinda
it. You
like
felt
jogging
it
right
deep.
there, you know? Because it's true. And I going back to like the whole relationship like between a man and a woman and like responsibilities and exchange of values, right? I think we're just so programmed ever since we're young. Like, this is what you're gonna do. This is the responsibilities of the woman. This is the responsibilities of
Mhm.
the man. But
Mhm.
as time has been changing and progressing, I feel like more things are being placed on the woman and
Yeah.
not enough on the man, right? Back then,
Mhm.
yeah, the woman was at home. You took care of the children, you took care of the household. You kind of just led everyone into like a good a good structured environment. That was the woman's role. But now you're being asked to work as well, to contribute financially to the
Yes.
household.
Mhm.
Granted, we could blame inflation on that, 100%. But regardless of what, like, times are shifting where women's income is one way or another kind of necessary in order to supplement certain things that need to be taken care of, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Which is fine. It's not all awful. The problem with that is, with that being added to the woman's responsibilities of having to work a full-time job, where are they being alleviated from other responsibilities at home? Where is
Mhm.
that support, right? Because you're right about that. Like, for me, it's like I go home, I go to work, and then I come home, and then I'm like, okay. Sometimes I'm like super exhausted. Lately, I've been struggling with exhaustion a lot, so I actually need to go get that checked out with a medical. Because at 2 p.m. I crash, and I'm a counselor. I'm a school counselor. It's not like I'm doing hard labor all day long. So I'm like, I shouldn't be that fatigued. So that's
Mhm.
something else I need to look into. But going back to just like what I'm trying to like point out is, I go to work, I come back home, and then after that, it's like I have to make sure if there's any like dirty dishes that I left in the morning, I clean that up. I tidy the house a little bit, try to keep it clean during the week so it's not chaotic because I don't like being in a dirty environment. On the weekends, on Saturdays, I still have to do laundry. I still have to deep clean the house. We have to find time to play with the dog. Like there's all these different responsibilities that need to take place. I used to have to cook dinner when I got home, but recently we got smarter. We ended up ordering from a meal prep because I was done. I was done. By the time I was like working out, finishing, I was working out in the afternoons and I was
Mhm.
so exhausted after working out, still had to cook, still had to try. By the time I sat down, it was 9 o'clock. I was like, what the hell? And I was always exhausted. And then I started kind of getting resentment for my partner because my partner would like get home and just like chill on the couch. And I'm like, what the hell? Like,
Mhm.
where is the balance here? Where is the help? Right? I'm like, why am I constantly struggling to like have some downtime? Like, but it's because I feel like I am not contributing or I'm not putting value into something if I'm not doing something. I'm so
Mhm.
used to that because my partner doesn't tell me, "Oh, no, you gotta take care of all that before you sit down." It's a
Mhm.
me thing. If I
Mhm.
wanna get home and sit on the couch right next to them, I can, but I don't.
Mhm.
And it's because I feel like things have to get done and I have to be the one to always do them.
Right. Yeah.
So, definitely, I see what you're talking about, like, we need to see what we bring to the table. We need to see what we're already doing, and we need to listen to our bodies. Like, when we need downtime, we need downtime. Like, we're not robots. We can't just continue to put out all this stuff, like, clockwise and not take care of ourselves. Because that's why I think that's the number one reason why in the workplace, women burn out faster than men.
Yes. Yes.
We
I
burn
agree.
and we burn out because we do not know how to balance our life to be able to rest and work. All we know how
Mhm.
to do is work, 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 work.
Yep. Yep.
We work our normal jobs, and God forbid if we work a stressful job. And then we
Yeah.
get home and the work keeps going. And if you have kids, the work never stops. You're working
Mhm.
7. You get
Yes, especially yep. Especially if you're like in a field related to like working with other people in some way or like serving other people in some way. Like your field is
yes,
education, you know. So that's very intense field to be in already. And they already like there's even this kind of like stigma around it that you're expected to always give more than you can, right?
yes. Oh my God. There's one thing, kind of jumping back and forth when you said about the work and the exchanges of values. There's one thing that really drives me crazy about working in education. You have your responsibilities of what you have to do. This is what you're getting hired for. But they always throw that little curveball. And they always say, here in our space, we all like to wear multiple hats. We
Don't you just love that
we all
phrase?
we all like to kind of learn and cross train each other. And in my head, I'm like, for what? So I could do your job too? Like
Yeah.
what? Like what does that like you're gonna expect me to do other jobs and jump into other things without getting properly compensated for it.
Mhm. Yes.
And it's like, no. Like, employers really need to stop trying to milk things out of human beings for the sake of like keeping their mental sanity. Like
Mhm.
it's not feasible. It's not things that someone could take care of in the day-to-day functions. And there's nothing worse than feeling like when you're at a job and you're constantly playing catch up. There's nothing worse than that
Yeah.
because where do we get to celebrate what we are doing? We're so overwhelmed with everything that we still have to do that we forget like, oh, I just took care of 10 things, but I'm
Mhm.
focusing on the one thing I still have to do,
You still have to do.
right? So it's
Yeah.
really hard. So I just think us really understanding the value that we bring and kind of like embracing that and setting the tone at work with our partners, like, hey, I'm human too. Like I
Mhm.
need rest time too. Like, I wanna just chill here and do nothing and still feel like I am the hot shit
Yeah, right.
done, right? Like, you
Exactly.
have to be able to do that for your mental sanity.
You do. I agree. And I think you said something really nice too that we always forget to do. It's like we're so focused on the one thing that hasn't been done that we forget about the 10 other things we have already accomplished. We forget to celebrate. We forget to celebrate our little wins. And so that might be a good way to start to find the value within yourself. Like if you feel like, this is resonating with you and you feel like you agree with some of these things and feel guilty for some of, not doing anything, then maybe celebrating the little wins is a good place to start noticing how much you actually do. Because if we actually don't know how much we do, then obviously we can't be like, oh, well, I did all this, and this. So to our brains and to ourselves, it's easy to brush off, right?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, but
Because
maybe
we're
if we're
always
like,
I think it's because we're always focusing on what we're lacking versus
mm-hmm,
what we already have and what we've already done.
mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And what we're lacking might only be one thing. And we already have the 99 other things.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that was something really nice you said that might be good to start doing, to start just celebrating your little wins, no matter how little they might be. Like a day for me would probably look like, oh, I woke up, I made my bed. Woohoo, little win, Like I made breakfast for me and my son. Ooh, another little win there. Just things that we feel like are so normal to us. Um, let's look at them like they're big things.
Yeah. I mean, we have to. We have to because we need to find the silver lining and the happiness in our lives too. Everything is not just a marathon that you're constantly having to like just thinking about the laundry list of things you have to do is exhausting,
Hmm. Yeah.
let alone having to do them. So the
Hmm.
fact that you're doing them through the process, that in itself is like, hell yeah, I'm freaking killing it.
Yes,
It-
exactly.
But if you feel like sometimes you just don't have it in you, also give yourself that time to be like, I'm still a badass, but I need a day or
Hmm.
2 off. And I'm gonna sit on
Yes.
the couch and I'm gonna get home and soak in a bathtub
Hmm.
and really like rejuvenate myself because I'm like, I'm gassing out. We have to
Hmm.
be able to understand when we're getting to that point. I learned that the hard way because at my previous job, it was very chaotic. I worked with discipline. I was constantly stressed. It was really far from home. The commute was terrible. I always felt like I was drowning, even though everyone around me was like, "You do your job so great," and I'm like, "Yeah," because in my mind, I'm gonna be a badass no matter what. But on the inside, I was crumbling. I was crumbling with chronic stress, and I wasn't giving myself time for me to recuperate, and I burned out. I
Yeah.
spiraled super bad, and I burned the hell out where I had to take time off of work because I couldn't function, and I started spiraling into a depression where I was crying every day. Like, and I'm like, "What the hell? Like, what happened there?" Now I look back at it and I'm like, damn, like I really did just allow everything around me, my work, things at home, to really consume me.
Hmm.
And I wasn't aware enough. I didn't have the mental clarity and I wasn't aware enough to like stand up and be like, okay, I'm stopping this because I can't function with this anymore.
Hmm.
But now I'm like, okay, now I learned that. Now I have that awareness.
Hmm.
Now when I'm starting to feel like agitated or like things are not going good, I take a step back. I chill. I'm learning how to do that because that's what life is about, finding that balance between things and not feeling like you always have to put everything out.
Yes. Yes.
And I think this is also important to kind of talk about like friendships. I think
Hmm.
this isn't something that talked enough about, like exchange of values between friendships. Like
Hmm.
we all have friends that we've had since we were in child elementary schools. We all have friends that we've made along when we're at work. We all have friends that we've met in our college years, adult years, right? And things shift. You are not the same person when that you were when you were in elementary. You're different.
Mm-mm. Mm-hmm.
You're probably not the same person you were when you were in college,
Yep.
right? So having this mentality of like, I always have to be there for a friend. I always have to be there for a friend. I always have to be above and beyond. And like they need to do the same for me. That's not realistic.
Mm-mm. It is not.
That is not realistic for the functioning adult. There has to
Mm-mm.
be equal exchange of values. If you have a friendship and that friendship is not giving you as much effort as you give it, and what I mean by that, I don't mean you have to hang out with your friend every week. I don't mean that. We're adult. We have lives. We have partners,
Mm-hmm.
children. We're not in our 20s where we're like hanging out, making plans to be with our friends every weekend. That's
Mm-hmm.
not realistic. But for me, when I do hang out with my friends, the ones I consider my friends, it could be a month, 2, 3 months out, and we're like, "Hey, let's go grab lunch. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's go watch a movie." And when we're together, it's a great time. We have dialogue. We talk about things. We kind of like really pick each other's brains. Like, I love that. We share experiences. You are giving equal exchange of values. You're putting as
Mm-hmm.
much effort into that friendship as that other person is too. And I feel like sometimes friendships take linger on longer than they should because
Mm-hmm.
you just feel the guilt of like, well, they've just been my friends, so I have to do it.
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's like, do you really though? Or is it
Yeah.
something that you feel, right?
Yeah. Are you
There's like,
guilt tripping yourself
yeah,
into doing that? Yeah.
yes. So I mean, exchange of values is everywhere in anything that you
Mm-hmm.
do, work, friends, relationships with your children, like
Mm-hmm.
it's in everything. You just always have to make sure the balance is not like this. Like you have to kind of bring it up to a balancing where you don't feel like you're over exhausting yourself to do
Mm-hmm.
something for someone else without taking care of yourself and stepping back. You should never expect them to do the same back for you because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to happen. We talked about in our last episode, expectations are the devil, right?
Yes.
Set ourselves up for all these expectations. We can't control how other people are going to respond to anything. We can only control how we respond.
Yes.
But it is
Exactly.
important. But it is important that if you see someone else is not promoting and giving that much energy back into fill your cup as much as
Mm-hmm.
you're giving that energy out, then just take a step back. And that's
Yes.
okay. And just be like, all right, I'm not going to put all this extra energy into this particular relationship, into this particular situation, because the return that I'm getting out of it is not high value. It's not the equal value.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. I completely agree. And it's time for us to start asking these questions and really seeing how we see the value in ourselves. Like, look at yourself, look at your life, relationships you have in your life, and see if you really are getting that same value that you feel within yourself in return with those relationships. Because if you're not, then it's more than likely those relationships are bringing you down and taking more value from you as well. Like, kind of like, I don't want to use the word using, but that's kind of how it would look from an outside perspective if that exchange of value isn't there between the two parties. And like you said, it doesn't have to be humongous. Like, with some of my friends, the same thing. We're adults, we have our lives, we understand that about each other, and that's also important to recognize that your relationships understand that when you can't be there, it's not because you don't want to or because you don't like him or because you have some kind of resentment or blah blah. It's because they also have a life, right?
Happen. That's the thing. More and more people are not you kind of as you get older, as you enter a new category, new journey in your life, a new section, it's like you kind of learn with it. You can't just
Hmm.
have the same expectations that you did when your life was different, right? Things
Yes.
naturally changing. And with that, that's why I always say I always say this, I'm like, "I'm not the greatest friend," okay? I always say that. I used to be a great friend when I was younger because they would invite me to 3 parties, I would go to all 3 parties. Like,
Mhm.
I would show up to everything. You would invite me to this, I didn't care how tired I was, I would drop what I needed to go do that. As I'm getting older, I like my time to myself. I really like to just kind of, like, be at home. I'm more of a homebody, and but I do enjoy going out with my friends and spending time with my friends and talking with my friends.
Mhm.
So, for me, my cup is filled by seeing my friends once a month. Like, if I see one of my friends once a month and we, like, hang out or whatever, my cup is filled. And
Mhm.
for other friends, they might not see it that way. They might see it like, "Oh, if I don't see her 3, 4 times a month, she's not my friend. If I don't talk
Mhm.
text her on the phone every other day, she's not my friend." But for
Mhm.
me, I don't feel like I need to be in constant communication with you and hanging out with you to feel like you're my friend. And when we
Yeah.
have those times together, they're great. We talk it out,
Yeah.
so much to share versus if you're
Mhm.
talking to someone on a weekly basis or texting or whatever off and on, it's like, what do we talk about now? Like, I did the same thing I did last
Mhm.
time. Like, nothing has really changed, right? So I just think it's really laying down who you are, being authentic to yourself, and the people that want to continue to be in your life are going to be in your life. And the
Yes.
ones that don't, they're going to weed out. That's just the reality of it on their own without you even having to do anything.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. So figure out for yourself what that means. Like for me, I can get a lot of value from just having a phone call with one of my friends, and we'll just have a phone call for like an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And then that's it. My cup is filled, their cup is filled. I feel like that the exchange of value is equal when you feel rejuvenated and energized after you are done with that situation.
100%. Yeah, no, I agree with you. So that's why to me, it's really important that specifically women, this could apply to men too, but specifically women, devalue ourselves so much.
Hmm.
We're constantly people pleasing. We're
Yes.
constantly like the nurturers. We're constantly the ones that are like, what can I do? What do I need to do? Like to keep
Mhm.
everything glued together and keep everyone happy. Damn, do all that work for yourself.
Yeah.
Stop putting it out so much for other people. Like, also help yourself, fill your cup in because that's just as important.
Yes,
And I swear,
exactly.
if I hear another person say, "Oh, stay at home moms just they don't do nothing, they just
No.
chill and just I get home, the house is still messy, or like the kids are not like, in order," I'm gonna punch someone. That really bothers me because being at home, staying at home, it's so much work. Like,
Yes,
especially if you have kids, it's so
yes.
much work. So I never want a woman that stays at home that cares for children, or even if they don't have children, that stays at home while their partner works. I never want them to feel like they're not bringing anything to the table. They're
Mhm.
bringing that plus some to the table.
Yes,
Just because
yes.
someone's bringing a paycheck into a household doesn't mean that they're doing the maximum for the household. Anyone could go to work and bring a paycheck into the household.
Exactly.
But running the household and making sure everything's functioning takes a lot of work.
Yes, it
So I just
does.
feel like a lot of people need to start getting with the program, and specifically men and partners out there
Mhm.
need to start picking up the slack in areas where they're not being supportive at home,
Yes, I
especially
100% agree.
especially if their woman works.
Yes.
1000%.
Yeah, and if she's a stay-at-home mom and you have a hard labor job, get home, get your rest. You don't need to rest all night. An hour or something is good, okay? To be restful and recuperate from the day's work, and then get to participating in your household.
Yeah, it's important. It's just as much as it has become a necessity for women to work in the household, it is now becoming a necessity for men to help in the household.
Yes.
Period.
Yes, it is.
Period.
Yes,
There's
it
no other way.
is.
There's no other way for a house to function without a woman burning to the ground or going through depression or like thoughts of like unworthiness. Like there's no other way. You need to balance it out. You need to have both
Mhm.
parties incorporating and giving into that household,
Yes, you
whether it's
do.
financially or whether it's on like responsibilities of how to like run the house.
Yes, exactly. And I know I have a huge responsibility. I have a little boy, and let me tell you, this kid, I can promise you without a doubt, I know that this kid will know how to run a household on his own, okay? Before he thinks
I love
about
actually some of our friends shared a story too, a couple of weeks ago when we were hanging out with them that they have a teenage boy and he does his own laundry. And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, we're not gonna wash his dirty laundry. He's a teenager. He needs to learn how to wash." And the
Yes.
next step is to teach him to learn how to cook. And I'm
Yes.
like, "Yes, yes to that."
Mhm.
Because there's too many households out there, and there's been too I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. It might offend some people, it might hurt some people, but that's not my intention. Stop babying your male children.
Yes.
Stop
Yes.
it. Like, just stop. Just the way have you heard the phrase have you heard the phrase of women saying, "Oh, yeah, I have 4 children. I have
Yes.
3 that I birthed and their father." Like,
Yeah.
so and people laugh about it. Like, people think it's a joke, and I'm like, "That's freaking
You're like,
sad."
it's not funny.
That's sad that your partner that's supposed to be your equal, that's supposed to be helping you raise his children, is classified as one of the children because
Mhm.
they can't do for themselves, because they
Mhm.
don't know how to cook in the moment that you're not there. They don't know how to put on a load to wash if you're not
Mhm.
there. They don't have the desire to pick up around the house if they see a mess. Like, that is a problem, and I
Yeah, it
feel
is. It's rampant,
but
especially in
I
our communities.
but I feel who do you blame for that?
The mothers.
1000%. And that's
The
what I'm saying.
mothers.
I don't wanna get anyone I don't wanna offend anyone, but if you are still a woman raising your male child, babying them, doing everything for them, not teaching them basic skills, like basic life skills, you're screwing them up. I'm letting
Yep.
you know right now, and their
Yep.
future baby mama will be complaining about them.
Yeah.
Their future wife
Exactly.
will be complaining about them. Like,
Yes.
don't do that, right? Like,
Mhm.
don't
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
time
Don't
to
break
stop it.
that standard.
Yes, it's time to break that cycle. It's time to break that cycle with babying little boys all up the way until their deathbed.
Yeah,
It's time to stop that, and that responsibility does fall on mothers. And I do 100% feel like that's true because I'm a mother of a little boy, and I do feel like that responsibility for me to make him, citizen of society falls on me.
but see, beyond that, beyond just I just feel like being able to cook and clean after yourself are just basic life skills.
Yes.
It sh
Hmm.
it should have nothing to do with gender roles. It should have nothing to do with, like, only women can learn these skills and men cannot.
Hmm.
Like, they're basic life skills that
Yes.
everyone should know how to do.
Hmm.
So, moving forward, we need to stop that. We need to cut that in the butt, break that cycle, and start teaching men all the life skills that they need to have to be successful future partners in a
Yes.
relationship and
Yes.
contribute and bring equal value into that partnership.
Yes. Exactly.
All right, I'm done. I'm over here going on a rant.
Yeah, we had our rant for the day, but yes, I agree. And yeah, like my little boy, he's 4 years old, and that's still a little bit too young to put on responsibilities for him to do like every day, right? Like chores or something like that. But just by me leading by example and seeing him, he is more than willing to help all the time. He's like, "Can I help you? Can I help you if I'm doing something?" And it's obviously coming from curiosity, right? Because he's 4.
Yeah.
It's not like, "Oh, like I need to help mom clean." It's like, "Oh, mom's doing something. I want to do it too." And I let him. Even if he doesn't do it how I want him to do it, I let him do it.
It's teaching them the skill. It's teaching
Exactly.
skill. It's important. Like they need to learn how to do these basic functions. And if you're starting them young and they don't see it as like, oh, it's a chore that I have to do.
Mhm.
And they learn out of curiosity, and then after that it just becomes a life skill.
Exactly.
Just
It becomes secondhand.
it's not gonna be like a drag to do. It's just gonna become something like, oh, this is just a life skill. It's a part of
Yeah.
life.
Yes,
Just
it's
like
just
it
what
is
you
learning
do.
how to drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's
Exac
all on how you present it to them, and it's all about you actually teaching them that.
Mhm. Yes.
That wraps up my thoughts around exchanges of equal value for today. Did you want to add anything else today, sister?
No, not well, maybe just, questions for everyone out there who is listening, just ask yourself, what value do you see intrinsically within yourself? And if you feel like there is none, if you're not taking care of someone, if you're not putting out the most, then it might be time to reevaluate that because you do have value, whether you're doing something or not.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's just about really looking within and just being like, yeah, I'm a bad.
Hmm. Yes.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our episode 6. So
Yay.
I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Um, I noticed that we're not really getting as much engagement as we used to. So please comment, like, is there some certain topics that you really want to hear us talk about? We would love to hear your thoughts. See if this is something that you're enjoying, right? Because we're trying to build a community here. Like the whole goal of this is a safe community for everyone to really express themselves, exchange thoughts
Hmm.
and ideas. So I really encourage everyone on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, um, go in there and just, or even on Twitter too, go on there and leave us comments or feedback on things that you would like to know about. Or if there's something that you heard us talk about that you want to challenge us on it, like tell us.
Yes.
We want to hear
Hmm.
your perspective. We want to hear your experience with what we're talking about. Maybe you don't,
Hmm.
and that's also okay, but we want to know. So don't be afraid
Yes.
to leave comments and messages for us. All right. Have a great Monday, and we'll see you guys next Monday. Bye.
Bye.